Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Air Force Association's annual Air, Space, and Cyber Conference and Trade Show, the leading gathering of U.S. Air Force leaders from around the world to talk about the service's future, its technology, budgets, and strategy. Our coverage here is sponsored by Elbit Systems of America, L3 Technologies, and Leonardo DRS. And we have with us Brigadier General Steve Bleymaier, who is the Chief of Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection at Air Mobility Command Headquarters at Sonny Scott Air Force Base. Sir, thanks very much for taking time to talk to us.
Oh, my pleasure.
So you have actually one of the hardest jobs in AMC, which is making sure that there are airplanes available in order to be able to execute the mission at the end of the day. We're in a revolution, particularly at airlines, about how they're delivering aircraft and making it available at a time when traffic is peaking and everybody needs, sort of every available slot. I mean, it's a nightmare when you can't launch that airplane on time. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys are working with airlines to figure out how to improve the availability of aircraft, all the way from whether it's predictive maintenance to any of the other techniques that they're using, because I know that you've been yourself have had one of those partnership or embedded jobs within an airline briefly. Talk to us a little bit about how are the airlines helping change how you do things?
Sure. So, first of all, we have an incredible team at Air Mobility Command, both at the staff and out in the field, taking care of our aging aircraft. And we've been able to observe what the airlines have been doing for many years in the areas of predictive maintenance. We've also had the benefit of having various officers actually embedded with industry in a program called Education with Industry. Most recently, we had a captain spend a year with one of the airlines, seeing how they do predictive maintenance and supply chain and trying to get after being more effective and efficient. And now we've got that officer back, and so we're going to take everything that they learned going forward. But we've seen industry be able to use the technology that's out there, the data that's on their aircraft today, and use it in a more timely manner to predict parts that are going to fail, and then make cognizant decisions about moving what could become unscheduled maintenance to scheduled maintenance before that part fails. And by doing that, they've been able to redefine how they actually execute their mission every day. So that's where we're starting on that journey ourselves now, and we call it condition-based maintenance plus. Understanding the actual condition of the aircraft, the degradation of parts before they fail, and then being able to do something about it before that aircraft is broke somewhere out there on a mission in the system. So we're starting on that journey. We're starting small, but that's where we're headed.
And I believe that that officer was at Delta Airlines, correct?
Delta Tech Ops, yes.
Delta Tech Ops. But you also had a little bit of an exposure also to a major airline as well.
Yes. I got to connect with United Airlines in the DALIP program, Depot and Arsenal Executive Leadership Program. And I got to go out and see their MRO operation in San Francisco and tour their facility and talk to their leadership and see how they do things. And then I was able to then take that information and experience to our air logistics complex where I spent 2 years. And so that was a great program, great information. And there's things that they're doing great and things that we're doing great, and both working to reduce waste in the processes.
And for United, for Delta, I'm sorry, the statistic you mentioned was absolutely stunning about how many failure avoidances basically the airline has gotten to. Tell us a little bit about that, because that was absolutely fascinating.
Right, and I don't know the exact numbers, but the information that we have is somewhere 7 to 8 years ago they had over 5,000 maintenance cancellations a year, to where in 2017 they went over 320 days without a maintenance cancellation and ended up the year with just a handful. So that's significant, and that really shows you the power of predictive analytics, and that's where we want to head.
Talk to us a little bit about the flight line of the future that you're working, because there's revolution in almost everything that you can do, whether it's on the route planning side of things, again, in terms of the major maintenance side of things, but also then on the flight line side of things. Talk to us about the flight line of the future.
So the Air Force logistics enterprise is headed towards a flight line of the future. And we want to get to the point where we're using the technology that's available today. The data and the information is in the cloud. It's available real time to the technician on the flight line. They have the digital interface tools and the digitally compliant tech data that's connected to the supply chain, and everything they're doing is virtual, the virtual forms and wireless, and they're able to do their job and document their job real time as they're doing it. They're using the latest tools and technology to help them do their job, and then as they're completing steps in that job, that's also connected to our supply chain system at the same time, and helping inform the supply chain in terms of what parts might be needed. So it's just a completely integrated virtual flight line of the future, and that's where we're headed. So we're starting off, again, small in various areas. Air Mobility Command is leading the Air Force's effort going to virtual forms. Today we still use paper forms, and the technician is out there handwriting what they're doing, and also using an e-tool and typing in, and then they often have to go back to their aircraft maintenance unit and type in all the work that they did.
It's very quaint, sir.
And there's no connection going on at that time. And the pilots are doing the same thing. So we're in spiral 2 of the effort to go to virtual forms, which will all tie into that digital flight line of the future. We're hot mapping our flight lines to find out, okay, where do we have wireless and where do we not have wireless, so we can work with our A6 community to make that better. And then as we launch on our effort for Condition-Based Maintenance Plus, we really have 4 lines of effort, because it's an ecosystem that we have to build that doesn't exist today. We need to operationalize that predictive maintenance to where that technician can has the software they need at their fingertips to actually get those maintenance alerts that tell them that a part is degrading and needs to be changed. We need to have the data management infrastructure to where that data is available. It's in the cloud. It's accessible, and it's flowing between the technician, the aircraft, and the database. We need to have I'm forgetting my lines of effort here, but we need to have the technology enabling tools. We need to have some sort of a digital maintenance interface, whatever that product is that technician has in their hands and that they're able to use. So again, 4 lines of effort. I talked about operationalizing that condition-based maintenance. Then there's a predictive maintenance alert loop that when that maintenance technician gets that alert, and then that's connected to scheduling that maintenance, which is then connected to the supply chain. Once that part's removed, what happens to that part when it goes to the retrograde supply system? Hasn't failed yet, so how are they going to know what to do with it? All that has to be figured out and codified so that there's a complete connection with all of that. And then the 3rd line of effort is the data management infrastructure and having the data available real time, data in the cloud, that real-time data connection between that maintainer on the flight line and the aircraft and the program office. And then lastly, the enabling technology, where you've got a digital maintenance interface of some sort that technician's able to use out there on the flight line. The tech data is all in S1000D compliant format, which is needed in order to move forward with the flight line of the future. And so those 4 lines of effort kind of help us move forward to build this ecosystem we need.
It's amazing that in this day and age, there's so much about the military that's still paper form based, and that actually hampers your ability to gather data at the speed that you need, because then everybody's like sort of dealing with paper forms, which I think is still amazing. Let me ask you about maintainers. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody looks at pilot shortfalls and worries about them, but there is also talk to us a little bit about maintainers and whether or not you've got the kind of level of experienced maintainers that you need to operate aircraft, particularly aircraft that, you know, some of them have older components on it, they're a little bit more maintenance intensive, where you need even more experience to be servicing them than, say, something that's just fresh off the assembly line.
Sure. So for years, we always had a shortage of maintainers. But recently, we've actually gotten very healthy. And I think this next fiscal year, we will be fully healthy across the entire Air Force. So in Air Mobility Command, we're nearly 100% manned. So in terms of numbers of maintainers, for the first time, at least in my career, we have the numbers of maintainers that we need. But of course, when you get a whole slew of new maintainers, there's a training burden that comes along with that. We've always had a training burden. You know, every maintenance leader out there has a training burden that they've got to work through. Right now, it's a little larger than it has been in the past. That said, you know, there's no concern that we're not going to be able to get the mission done, and we're not going to be able to bring those maintainers up to the level they need to be. But just as we're looking at, you know, what the airlines have done with predictive analytics, what industry is doing out there with maintenance training, we want to transform how we do maintenance training in the Air Force too. Take advantage of those technologies that exist today.
Augmented reality, virtual reality?
Sure. You know, there's all of those different technologies that we've all seen demonstrated and that we know that industry is using today. And so we're partnering with Air Education Training Command, and I know that maintenance training is also a big effort at the Air Force level. And so we're figuring that out as an enterprise and as a team. You know, what does our maintainer of the future look like, both in terms of, you know, what skills do we need them to have? You know, the airlines have more of a composite maintainer that has many different skills, you know, the A&P type model. And do we need, you know, so what do we need in the Air Force? You know, what's the right balance for us? And then the other line of effort is, and then how do we train them? What technology do we take advantage of out there and fold into how we train them so that we can be, you know, better trained, more efficient, more effective in terms of training, and then able to also maintain that your training, your skills as you go forward. You know, we have some locations, especially in Air Mobility Command, we have en route locations that a lot of times those maintainers are out there are relying on the aircraft that fly through there to keep up their skills. And unfortunately today, if you don't have an aircraft break in one of those locations, they don't get to practice their skills. Sometimes we actually have to take a good aircraft and fly it there just to do the training, or we send them TDY to do training. Well, is there a more efficient way to do that? Can we take advantage of the technology that's out there today to continue to keep their skills at the right level? And so we want to look at that.
Brigadier General Steve Bleymaier, the Director of Logistics Engineering and Force Protection at Air Mobility Command Headquarters. Sir, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.